Hi, everybody. It's Sammy. There's a line in a Rush song, Natural Science by Rush, that reads, "Art as expression, not as market campaigns, will still capture our imagination." And I've been thinking a little bit about that. I spend a lot of time on Facebook, probably more than I should, um, specifically scrolling through Facebook videos. And one of the communities that I get a lot of videos from are artists. Specifically, painters tend to be the videos I come across. But I have a bad habit that I've been working on where I'll argue with people that I disagree with when I see comments that I disagree with. Um, it tends to be a waste of time. It depends on the kind of conversation, the kind of person you're talking to. Some people actually want to hear new information, and sometimes I'm convinced that my opinion that I had entering the conversation wasn't as accurate as it could be. And in regards to art, in the comments that people make on those videos tend to be like, "This sucks," or "That's a waste of product," or "That would never sell for anything," or "It would sell for like $1 million, but it doesn't deserve to be sold for that much." That sort of thing. And as an artist myself, that really bothers me. It really gets to me because I believe that art is subjective in its entirety. It's a matter of what the artist intends to portray, how the art is interpreted by the viewer, um, who the target audience is, and what the desired effect of that art is meant to be and what its purpose is. Sometimes the purpose of art is just to express something in the same way that somebody might take out their anger by punching a punching bag. Some people want to allow the creativity in their brain to be put out into something, even if that thing doesn't make sense or isn't pleasing to the eye or whatever. I think ultimately what matters the most is the artist as a intended target audience. How the artist feels about their art matters significantly more than how anyone else feels about it, unless the intention of the art is specifically to make money or like a commission or something like that. I I believe that criticism has value in regards to art. I also believe that there is a level of criticism that is unnecessary and not beneficial. I believe that when it comes to something subjective or something where your criticism isn't needed or wanted or constructive, even I think it's important to consider that even though it may be constructive to you and you in your way of thinking might think, well, that's a waste of product. That's not going to sell very high. It doesn't look very good. It's not uniform. Um, if that's how your brain works, that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. But I do find issue with projecting that onto other people, because not everybody's brains function the same way. Some people are more creative thinkers. Some people are more logical thinkers. Logically, yes, it may be unappealing to the eye. The colors may not be appealing, or the pattern may not be appealing, and sometimes that is on purpose. Um, well, actually, it's always on purpose. Um, well, I shouldn't say always. There are definitely times where it's accidental, that stuff happens. But the more that you consume art and the greater understanding that you develop for it through just learning more about it and taking different forms of art, understanding how it's made and making it yourself, I feel like you come to understand that most art has intention in the entirety of it. When you watch a movie, every word is written, right? Intentionally. It's not like, whoops, those words just happened on the script, or this scene just happened to play out that way. There is intention in art. They choose what to keep, what to remove, and every detail is on purpose. And that helps to appreciate the art more. I'm personally an advocate for appreciating art as it is rather than what I want it to be. Just because I disagree with something does not make it any less real for the person who is portraying that. Something that's not appealing to my eyes might be appealing to someone else's eyes. And that kind of touches on the concept of subjective reality versus objective reality, and how our perception forms our understanding and comprehension of the things around us. But I think specifically that line of thinking that art may be not worthy of money, or that it's intended only for money, um, or that it's not worth money and it should be, um, is counterintuitive. I think it's art isn't that's not always the intention of art. And there are a lot of people in this world who are very money focused. They're like, you're wasting your time if you're not spending all of your time trying to make money. But that's, well, no, that would be a waste of time for you, but that's with your time, right? Nobody can tell me if I'm wasting my time, especially when it comes to creating art. There's a genre of art that is intended specifically to make you uncomfortable, whether that be through confronting situations that make you uncomfortable, or topics that make you uncomfortable, or simply viewing something that makes you feel uneasy or uncomfortable, right? Like, why do we like horror movies? Things like that, where it's, well, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't like enjoy the suffering that people are going through, right? It's hard to watch, but it's supposed to be hard to watch. And I think it's a good thing that it's hard to watch, because it means that we can understand that those things are harmful in a real setting, and then we can hopefully apply that to our real lives through fiction, or like from fiction to our real lives. And art as a form of expression is entirely, well, for one, art tends to be reflective of modern life. You know, the modern experiences that people go through. I could paint something that about let's say I could make a painting about slavery that's meant to be, or write a song about slavery that's meant to be a dialogue on that issue and the effects of that issue, but I cannot create it in the same way and with the same intent as somebody who experienced slavery, or people who directly experience the consequences of slavery. My art will still holds value, right? I can make valid points about it, but they don't come from a place of experiencing those consequences directly versus indirectly, because I never experienced those things. I can only share my understanding of slavery from the perspective of somebody who's never been a slave, whose family has never been slaves, who doesn't experience racism um, systematically and on a regular basis. It's I I can view their art and I can appreciate their art, but I can't understand it in the same way they can understand it. And I'm not supposed to, because maybe that art isn't meant for me and maybe it is meant for me. Maybe it is intended to show me like, hey, this is the suffering we have experienced. Please try to understand that and empathize or sympathize. To try and help people to understand. Or it could be a, hey, do you relate to this? You're not alone, that sort of thing. So does art derive its value from the viewer and how it is perceived, or does it derive its value from the artist and the message and emotion that they intended to invoke with it? um, I do believe that art will. I don't really have an answer to that. I think that it's more a combination of the two. And I think most things in life tend to be more gray than black and white. I I wonder if does it matter the intention of the artist if it's not perceived, or if the message that's conveyed doesn't come across right. I think so. I think that it does matter because because you can't control how people will perceive it. You can only create it and then hope that people perceive it in the way you intended. But I think there's also value in interpreting something in a way that it wasn't intended. People can draw messages from things that weren't supposed to be there. They weren't intended to be there. But because of your personal experiences and the way that you interpret things has drawn new meaning from it. And I think that's awesome. Where I come to odds with criticism of art is specifically in these cases where you're saying, well, that basically saying, well, that's not what I would do. It discredits anything that the artist did intend. And rather than adding on to it, you're attempting to subtract from it. And I don't want to say can't, I don't agree with that as a decision to make. Art means a lot to me. It's a big part of my life. I love to write. I write songs. I write stories. I love to sing. I love to draw. And I also love to just consume art. I love to see the art that other people create because to me, it's an expression of emotion in a person's soul, or what I consider a soul. It's an expression of that brought into reality. And I believe that emotion is put into art. Or when you put emotion into art, I believe that it can come out of that art to those who view it. And I think that's extremely valuable. And I think any form of new art, any sort of expression of the self always has value. I think that to pioneer new ways to paint or draw or sing or create, I think is kind of a value that that we hold as human beings, as conscious creatures. And I think it's beautiful. And back to that line from that song, that art as expression will still capture our imagination. I think that will hold true forever. I don't think that there will ever not be things to make art about. Um, People will not run out of new ways to do art because there's always new things being invented, right? You know, somebody back in the 1200s couldn't make art about light bulbs, right? They couldn't make art about electricity because we didn't understand it, right? We didn't have any concept of that. They couldn't make art about cell phones because it didn't exist. The concept didn't exist. But when cell phones and electricity are invented and they become a part of everyday life, and everybody's got cell phones, and you've got, you know, lights on your ceiling, you know, your houses have electricity and heating and all those things. The issues that we face now, while some are similar, and there's a form of art where we can compare the two, we can be like, well, see how things don't change. But then there's also art where we can say, well, see how things do change. And I think both have value. I think that noticing a lack of change helps to bring about change. And I think that noticing change encourages a continuation of change. And sometimes change is negative. So sometimes that also says, well, hey, maybe we should go back to this. And as long as the issues that we face in modern life continue to change, which they always will, art will change with it because people will have different things to talk about, right? The issue of being addicted to your phone is new, and that's something that people can talk about. Dating apps or video games or cars, you know, motorized vehicles, those are things that we can express forever. There will be new things, right? If we get flying cars down the line, which I think is pretty inevitable, then people will be able to have things relating to that, right? And I think as humans evolve, art evolves with us. And we also see animals being able to create art, you know, apes or elephants I've seen, and things like that. Now, whether or not that's an expression of the self or a systematic processing of learned behaviors, regardless, I think it's an interesting field to explore more. And sorry if I have long moments of silence. I think I'm going to continue to leave those moments in because I believe that silence has a. I believe I'm an advocate for taking time to think about what you're going to say before you say it. I think sometimes we see people, especially on YouTube, who have well articulated thoughts that are edited together to be more easily consumable. Um, it's easy to compare yourself to those people and then be like, well, they're able to just like right off the bat say everything that they're thinking, and when in reality they've taken time to put thought into that and edit and script and then say what they mean right away, and it seems like it's immediate, but that's not a healthy way, in my opinion, to experience thought and to process thought and opinions. I think it's important to take time to think and sit in silence and make sure that you're saying what you mean to say. But these are just some of my thoughts as an artist. in regards to art and our consumption of it and our interactions with it in society. And I would encourage people to be less critical of art. Um, oh, I did also want to talk about the censorship of art. Um, as somebody who grew up in the Mormon church, swear words were a big deal, or like raunchy stuff, like in regards to sex jokes and things like that. Um, but I have very strong opinions about the morality of censoring someone else's art for the sake of your viewers, your comfort while viewing it, because certain art is intended to make you uncomfortable. And I believe that when you censor those things that make you uncomfortable, you close yourself off to information and realities that are different from your own. The information that you don't understand, lifestyles that you don't understand, right? If you're not comfortable seeing gay people in a movie and you just always avoid seeing gay people in any media, you're never going to understand gay people. You're never going to understand their experiences or what their life is like. And I think that is detrimental to the progression of society and to the development of individuals. I believe that it's important to allow yourself to be uncomfortable in certain situations and to not just avoid discomfort when consuming art. I also believe that it's immoral to alter someone else's art for you. Not to say like you take a painting, you paint over it, you add to it, whatever. The other and that painting still exists, whatever. But to take specifically like movies and then be like, well, I don't want to hear the swearing. Well, it's like, well, the swearing, as I said earlier, was intentional. It could be there as a way to kind of break tension or to build tension. And certain swearing in particular is a form of expressing language in a way that other words can't, in applying emphasis to what you actually mean. I can say I'm mad, or I'm really mad, or I can say I'm being pissed, like effing pissed. I don't want to say that because I don't want to get demonetized, but there's a very clear difference between the intensity of those two and what they mean. Um, and as a queer person who is neurodivergent, I've experienced a lot of frustrating things. At times, there don't exist. There are not words that accurately express the feelings that I've experienced. And the best way I've found to express those is in certain swear words. When describing the things that I feel and experience. And I think it's important to consider that when consuming media and art, that I don't have to be comfortable watching it, and sometimes I'm not comfortable watching it, and that's okay. And in fact, that might even be good, because it's a different perspective. It's a different understanding of things than what I have. I like watching the Hunger Games, or like I recently watched Songbird of, or I don't remember what it's called, the something of Songbirds and Snakes. It's And that movie made me really uncomfortable because I was like, these people are terrible. They suck. The world that they live in sucks. It's terrible and it's frustrating because I'm like, I want this to go differently. I want these people to understand things the way that I understand things. But then it makes me confront a reality that those things do happen and that there are people like that. And if I want to avoid those things, I have to see the consequences of those things to understand why I should want to avoid those things and why I should care about that in reality, and how that applies to me as a person, as an individual, and my individual influence on society as a whole and the people around me. So I just encourage everyone to have an open mind and to try to understand things, and maybe experiment with things that you're not comfortable with, and you might learn something that you didn't know before, that you didn't think you could know or understand. I think that's all for today. But thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you like this type of content, subscribe, turn on notifications. And if you have a subject you'd like me to talk about, or if you have some thoughts in regards to what I talked about in this video, let me know down in the comments. Bye.